Dolph Lundgren. He could have been the next Einstein, but instead, he chose to growl his way through direct-to-DVD disasters and punch Sylvester Stallone into the ICU. Whether he's forgetting how tall he is or starring in movies filmed exclusively in warehouses, this guy's an avalanche of testosterone, confusion, and midlife karaoke. Get ready to flex your sarcasm muscles with everything wrong with Dolph Lundgren. Sorry to interrupt, but if Dolph Lundgren can survive Universal Soldier, Aquaman, and Sharknado 5, you can survive clicking subscribe. Ah, thanks. Stockholm Syndrome, but make it buff. Dolph Lundgren wasn't just born looking like a Norwegian god sculpted out of muscle and IKEA instruction. Nope, our favorite Soviet-slaying action hero came into the world as Hans Lundgren in Stockholm, Sweden. Because of course he did. As a kid, he was smart, like chemical engineering smart. He studied in Sweden, then scored a Fulbright scholarship to MIT. That's right, MIT. The man has more degrees than most people have abs. But before he could become the next Swedish Einstein, he got sidetracked by, well, punching people in slow motion. While dating Grace Jones, casual, he was discovered by Hollywood, cast as Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. And boom, everyone forgot he had a brain because look at those cheekbones. Yes, and the rest is history. Dolph's chemical engineering ed. What's more terrifying than a 6'5" guy with giant muscles? A 6'5" guy with giant muscles and a degree in chemical engineering. Yep, Dolph Lundgren isn't just a tough guy. He's actually super smart. He studied at Sweden's top tech school, got a Fulbright scholarship, and even started a master's degree at MIT. So naturally, he used that big brain to yell and swing swords in cheesy action movies like Masters of the Universe. These days, he doesn't bring up his science skills much, unless it's in an interview that needs a fun fact. And when he does, it's usually followed by, "But then I went into acting." Translation: I could have cured cancer, but blowing things up on screen paid better. So instead of saving the planet, he made Kindergarten Cop 2. Genius wasted? Maybe. But hey, he's still the most jacked scientist Hollywood's ever ignored. Drago's dumbbell delusion. Dolph Lundgren wants you to know he still lifts. A lot. Like, way more than anyone with a working spine should. His YouTube and Instagram feeds are a shrine to his aging biceps and impossible workouts, featuring routines that scream immortal cyborg, not dad with a gym membership. He's pushing heavy compound lifts, deadlifts from hell, and explosive moves that would shatter most normal people's joints into Lego pieces. Sure, it's great that he still trains hard, but giving fitness advice to the general public while looking like a Marvel villain is like Gordon Ramsay telling college kids how to make a foie gras terrine. And let's be honest, how many 65-year-olds out there can follow Dolph's Drago 3000 plan without ending up in traction? But hey, why adapt to reality when you can pretend it's still 1985 and your opponent is Rocky Balboa? Also, quick side note, maybe that eternal youth glow isn't just from kale smoothies. Just saying, if Dolph's workouts prove anything, it's that staying shredded past 60 might require more chemistry than biology. Probably a little help from his other chemical engineering toolkit. Rocky's real knockout. Everyone remembers Rocky IV for the iconic showdown between Rocky Balboa and Ivan Drago, the hulking Russian brute played by Dolph Lundgren. What most don't remember is that during filming, Dolph delivered a real punch so hard it nearly killed Sylvester Stallone. Because nothing says movie magic like nearly murdering your co-star in a choreographed fight scene. Yes, Dolph landed a sucker punch that swelled Stallone's pericardial sac, the sac around his heart, to the point Stallone was in intensive care for 9 days. And you thought on-set drama was just about missed lines or flub stunts. Nope. This was the equivalent of accidentally punching someone into the hospital and then acting like it was all part of the script. You'd think after nearly punching a hole in Stallone's chest, Dolph might have earned a lifetime supply of apologies, or at least some ice packs. Instead, this incident only added to his reputation as the guy who takes method acting way too seriously. Honestly, it's impressive that Stallone came back at all, considering he had a temporary heart injury, which is usually a pretty big deal for actors whose characters live to punch and get punched. So next time you watch Rocky IV and to root for Drago, remember you're cheering on the guy who nearly gave The Rock a heart attack. Literally. That's Hollywood dedication, or just a wildly dangerous set. Midlife crisis, music edition, because nothing screams, I'm still relevant, like covering Elvis in a tight t-shirt on Swedish TV. In 2007, Dolph decided the world wasn't getting enough of his talents, specifically his karaoke skills. So he stepped onto Så ska det låta, Sweden's answer to Name That Tune, and belted out a cover of Elvis Presley's A Little Less Conversation. Except what we got was a lot more confusion. Wearing jeans that probably hadn't fit since Red Scorpion, he oiled up, grabbed a mic, and gave Sweden a performance that was more dad at wedding after 3 beers than rock icon. It was the kind of thing that makes you question if national television should come with a warning label. Let's be honest, Lundgren looks like a man who could tear a phone book in half, not a man who should serenade you with a hip swivel and a smirk. The crowd clapped politely, probably out of fear he'd throw a piano at them if they didn't. Now, we'll give him credit. He had the guts to go through with it. But it's also proof that no amount of formal education or martial arts belts can save you from the curse of the celebrity vanity project. Dolph, if we wanted Elvis, we'd go to Vegas. If we wanted to see He-Man sing, well, now we've seen it, and we can't unsee it. Game show host? Or henchman? In a career full of questionable pivots, Dolph's stint as host of Gladiator Arena, Sweden's version of American Gladiators, might be his most unintentionally hilarious. Imagine watching a half-robot former Soviet boxer try to MC a high-energy game show. Now remove the energy, and the show. Clips from the series show Dolph looming over contestants like he's about to interrogate them with a folding chair. He delivers lines with the warmth of an ATM, and his pep talks feel like deleted scenes from The Terminator. It's the only show where the host looks like he's actively planning a coup. It wasn't just cringe, it was industrial-grade awkward. Contestants looked more terrified of Dolph than the actual gladiator, and the banter? Non-existent. Unless you count him saying, "good job," like he's watching someone parallel park. Honestly, the man's charisma is a black hole. He sucks the joy out of competition like a vampire on keto. Gladiator Arena could have been fun, but instead it became a masterclass in how to kill vibes on live TV. Note to producers, next time cast someone who knows how to smile without looking like they're about to detonate something. Steroids and cancer? Thanks, science. Here's a plot twist even the Dolph probably didn't expect. He openly admitted to using steroids during the peak of his action star days in the 80s and 90s. Yep, the giant muscle machine himself confessed that he pumped so much iron and juice into his system that he was basically a walking chemistry experiment. No surprises there, just look at him. But then things get dark. Lundgren later speculated that his steroid use might have contributed to his 2015 lung cancer diagnosis. So, in a way, Dolph's own quest for biceps may have backfired harder than any bad movie script. This kind of admission is rarer than you'd expect from action stars, who typically keep their pharmaceutical habits under wraps. Instead, Dolph laid it all out there, turning his steroid confession into a cautionary tale about the dangers of chasing the ultimate action hero body. Or, just playing the long game of how not to live forever. What makes this even more painfully ironic is that steroids probably helped him build the Drago physique that made him famous. But they might have also delivered the punch that landed him in the hospital years later. It's the ultimate action hero paradox. Gains today, regrets tomorrow. In the end, Dolph's steroid saga is a reminder that no amount of muscle can shield you from your own mistakes, especially when those mistakes come in injectable form. Masters of Disaster. If you think playing He-Man is an easy gig, just ask Dolph Lundgren about Masters of the Universe, 1987, the cinematic equivalent of a warm-up lap in the race to the worst movie ever made. This film is basically a monument to how not to adapt a beloved cartoon, featuring Dolph as the muscle-bound hero who somehow forgot to bring any acting skills to the set. Critics mercilessly tore it apart, and the audience wasn't any kinder. Masters of the Universe earned a blistering 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yes, 13%. That's basically the movie critics' way of saying, we watch this so you don't have to. The plot was a mess. The special effects looked like they were borrowed from a kid's birthday party, and Dolph's performance was about as animated as a stone statue. Lundgren, whose claim to fame was looking like a Viking crossed with a bodybuilder, seemed to misunderstand that muscles alone don't make a compelling hero. His delivery was so wooden, it's a miracle anyone didn't try to prop him up with glue during filming. Even He-Man's iconic sword looked sharper than Dolph's acting chops. The movie tanked so spectacularly that it has since become a cult classic for all the wrong reasons. Parents warned their kids away, critics wrote essays on its awfulness, and Dolph's acting career took a significant detour into straight-to-video oblivion. Basically, if you want to see Dolph at his absolute worst, grab some popcorn and watch this one. But don't blame me when your eyes start bleeding. Red Scorpion, The Pectoral Show. Let's talk about Red Scorpion, 1988. Dolph Lundgren's attempt at being a serious action star. Minus, actually being serious or acting. Critics summed up his performance in one brutal phrase: stone-faced. Apparently, Dolph decided emotions were overrated and went full robot for this one. Though, thankfully, his chest muscles showed up to save the day. Reviewers had an easy time pointing out that his pectorals outshone his actual acting. So much so that it almost felt like the chest was the real star of the movie, flexing more than Dolph ever did on camera. The film itself was a bizarre Cold War propaganda flick, complete with predictable cliches and an incoherent plot. But hey, at least you got a good look at some pumped-up pecs. Apparently, Lundgren's acting range for this flick was limited to frown hard and glare menacingly, which might work for a statue, but not for a guy trying to save the world. The script could have been delivered by a toaster, and still made more emotional sense than Dolph's performance. Critics weren't impressed, audiences shrugged, and Lundgren kept flexing his way to the next straight-to-video disaster. If you wanted a movie where the muscles speak louder than words, Red Scorpion delivered. If you wanted actual acting, well, better luck next time, Dolph. Punisher? Now here's a controversial one for the comic book purists. In 1989, Dolph Lundgren suited up as the Punisher, but fans were quick to shout, "Wait, that's not how it goes," faster than you can say skull logo. Because surprise, surprise, Lundgren's Punisher somehow lost the most iconic symbol of the character, the freaking skull on his chest. Not only did the movie rewrite the origin story into something unrecognizable, but the absence of the skull logo made comic fans everywhere clutch their chests, figuratively of course, wondering if this was some bizarre undercover punishment for their patience. Lundgren's brooding, near-voiceless performance didn't help matter, making it hard to tell if his Punisher was haunted by his past or just bored. The film tried to sell the tough guy act, but without the signature symbol or storyline, it felt like watching an off-brand vigilante who forgot to buy the costume. This flick cemented itself as one of those rare cases where changing the character so drastically makes you wonder if the filmmakers even liked the source material, or were just cashing in on the name. Spoiler, it was definitely the latter. So if you're a fan of the Punisher comics, stay far away from this version, because the only thing getting punished is your patience. How tall is he? Nobody knows. The great Dolph Lundgren height mystery. According to fans and media alike, Dolph's stature is somewhere between giant Viking god and basketball player who skipped the team photo. Estimates range wildly from 6 feet 4 inches to an eyebrow-raising 6 feet 7 inches, with Dolph himself playing the tall, dark, and mysterious card by never confirming the exact number. Is he tall enough to dunk without jumping? Possibly. Is he tall enough to change light bulbs without a ladder? Maybe. Will he tell you? Absolutely not. This ongoing height debate has sparked countless memes and conspiracies, like maybe he's taller on screen thanks to camera angles, or maybe those lifts in his shoes are taller than his acting range. This height ambiguity has become one of Dolph's unofficial trademarks, because nothing says mystery action star like leaving your fans guessing whether they need a stepladder to meet you. Meanwhile, other actors have no problem telling the world exactly how tall they are. But Dolph keeps the suspense alive like a true action movie enigma. The real kicker? This debate is probably the most dramatic thing to happen in his career since Masters of the Universe bombed. So if you're ever wondering how tall Dolph Lundgren is, just remember, the truth is out there, somewhere between 6 feet and a stretch goal. Burglars run for the hills? You know you're a walking legend when burglars break into your home, tie up your wife, and then bolt the second they see your family photos. That's right. Back in 2009, 3 masked intruders decided to target Dolph Lundgren's Spanish villa, probably thinking they were going to score big. But things took a hard left when they spotted a picture of Dolph himself, presumably flexing or looking menacing, and freaked out. Apparently, seeing a hulking action star on your victim's mantle is the equivalent of waving a red flag at a bull, or in this case, a guy who can literally crush skulls. The burglars ran faster than you can say Ivan Drago. So while most people hide behind security systems, these masterminds decided Dolph's sheer physical presence was a security system all on its own. Either that, or they just remembered his movies and thought, nah, not worth it. Which honestly is the highest compliment to Dolph's intimidation factor, even if it came via terrifying a couple of criminals into fleeing. Lesson learned. If you want to rob Dolph Lundgren's house, don't leave the family photos out on the mantle. Or better yet, don't rob it at all unless you want to meet the Swedish Terminator in person. Spoiler alert, it won't end well for you. Direct-to-video king. Remember when Dolph Lundgren was the tough guy who almost killed Stallone and punched his way into pop culture? Well, by the mid-1990s, that ship sailed straight to the bargain bin. Instead of blockbuster hits, Dolph's name became synonymous with low-budget, direct-to-video flicks that no one asked for but everyone somehow found on dusty rental shelves. Shot mostly in Eastern Europe because apparently muscle and subtitles go great together. These films usually featured plots thinner than a protein shake and acting that rivaled your uncle's high school drama production. Titles like The Mechanic, Command Performance, and Icarus sounded badass. But the only thing they crushed was the box office. Dolph went from Rocky IV's iconic Ivan Drago to the guy who shows up in a VHS labeled "Do Not Rent." Critics weren't just disappointed, they were confused why anyone would still hire him. But hey, the man was still punching people, even if it was for a paycheck and a fleeting flash of relevance. So yes, Dolph's career decline is a tragic saga of wasted potential. Just remember, even action stars can't punch their way out of every career slump. Age is just a number, right? Dolph Lundgren married Emma Krockdahl, who happens to be 38 years younger than him and the exact same age as his daughter. That's right. His wife could easily be mistaken for his daughter, which naturally set off a wildfire of public debate and relentless social media commentary. While Hollywood loves a good May-December romance, this one turned heads for all the obvious reasons. The massive age gap and the uncomfortable generational overlap. People couldn't decide if they were witnessing a genuine love story or a bizarre midlife crisis with a Swedish twist. Dolph, ever the action star, probably shrugged off the drama with a muscles over math attitude, but the internet had a field day. Memes, hot takes, and heated debates flooded timelines worldwide, with everyone weighing in on whether this was romance or a casting mistake. Love is love, sure, but when your wife and daughter share the same birth year, it's hard not to raise an eyebrow. It's the kind of headline that makes you wonder if Dolph's next role will be as a time traveler, or just a guy desperately trying to keep up with youth, one Instagram post at a time. Genius or publicity stunt. Rumors swirl around Dolph Lundgren's intellect like a fog of mystery wrapped in muscle. Some claim he boasts a genius-level IQ of 160, putting him in the league of Einstein and Stephen Hawking. But before you start picturing Dolph solving quantum physics problems between punches, let's pump the brakes. Dolph himself has downplayed these claims, suggesting the number was probably inflated by his publicist or the media. Translation: that genius IQ is about as real as his acting awards. It's classic Hollywood hype. Take a muscle-bound star, sprinkle in some brainiac rumors, and voila, instant multi-dimensional celebrity. This myth likely arose because Dolph does hold a chemical engineering degree, which sounds fancy and makes for good press. But genius? Not so much. The guy's strength is physical, not Mensa quizzes. So the next time someone tries to wow you with Dolph's secret genius, remember it's probably marketing fluff. Like the perfectly choreographed fight scenes, the genius IQ story is designed to sell a narrative, one that makes Dolph look like an action star and a brainiac. Which, let's be honest, is a bit too much credit for a man whose most famous lines are basically, I must break you. Grace Jones, the non-fiancé. There's a long-standing Hollywood myth that Dolph Lundgren was once engaged to the iconic Grace Jones, the wild, eccentric singer and model known for being a force of nature. But here's the truth. No, they were never engaged. Not even close. Dolph and Grace did live together for about 4 years, which was long enough for tabloids to run with the engaged narrative and for gossip columns to explode. But according to Dolph, the relationship was serious, but not engagement-level serious. More like two powerful personalities cohabiting without tying the knot. This rumor stuck around partly because Grace Jones's life is a kaleidoscope of flamboyance and mystery, and pairing her with the stoic Lundgren made for irresistible gossip. But Dolph's dry Swedish demeanor and Grace's avant-garde theatrics were probably too different to seal the deal. So sorry to disappoint the romance-hungry fans, but no secret wedding bells rang between these two. Instead, they just shared a wild few years living in the 80s eccentric bubble, which was scandalous enough without the fake engagement. Canis catfight or not? In 1992, Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme decided to take the classic Hollywood stunt to a whole new level, staging a fake fight at the Cannes Film Festival to drum up publicity for Universal Soldier. Yes, those two muscled-up action stars pretended to throw punches in front of the press to hype the movie. The French media, bless their hearts, fell for it hook, line, and sinker. Photos of the altercation flooded the news, and fans started salivating over the supposed rivalry. But in reality, it was all smoke and mirrors, an elaborate PR stunt designed to make the movie seem more exciting. This stage feud was so convincing that it probably made some fans question whether Universal Soldier was an action film or a behind-the-scenes drama. Spoiler, it was both, but mostly the latter. It's a classic example of how two guys whose actual fighting skills were questionable could still fake the intensity of a real brawl on camera for maximum publicity points. So if you ever find yourself wondering if two action stars really hate each other, remember, sometimes it's just a cleverly choreographed punchline. Expendables tension. Working with Sylvester Stallone sounds like a dream come true, unless you're Dolph Lundgren, who admitted he wanted to punch out Stallone during the intense filming of The Expendables. Yes, even two seasoned action stars can't avoid set drama when the pressure and egos collide. Apparently, the working conditions were so stressful that Dolph lost his chill and seriously contemplated punching out the guy who once nearly died from his punch. Thankfully, cooler heads prevailed, and the two reconciled before anyone had to duck a flying fist. This behind-the-scenes tension adds a little action movie within the action movie drama that fans didn't know they needed. Because nothing says movie about tough guys like the actors almost coming to blows off camera. It also proves that being an action star doesn't automatically mean you have the patience of a saint. Sometimes, after dealing with all those explosions and stunt mishaps, even a tough guy like Dolph hits his limit, especially if it's with the guy who made him famous. The vanishing accent mystery. Sometimes he sounds Swedish, sometimes American, sometimes like a Bond villain raised in Austria. Dolph Lundgren's accent is the cinematic equivalent of a dial-up internet connection. Unpredictable, glitchy, and just when you think it's consistent, it crashes into something weird. In Rocky IV, he was mostly silent. Probably smart, considering his delivery made Siri sound passionate. Fast forward to later films and interviews, and suddenly he's got the world's most confusing hybrid accent. Is it Swedish? Is it mid-Atlantic? Is it just the sound of a man who's done too many push-ups in too many countries? It's like his vocal cords are permanently jet-lagged. In one interview, he sounded like he was trying out for Downton Abbey. In another, he was back to IKEA mode with an ABBA undertone. Either he's working on world domination, or someone needs to recalibrate his language settings. And to be clear, there's no shame in having an accent. The problem is pretending not to, then slipping mid-sentence like your GPS lost signal. Just pick one, Dolph. We'll even settle for robot. But if your identity is going to be the genius martial artist with a mysterious past, maybe invest in a dialect coach who doesn't moonlight as a ventriloquist. When He-Man met film school dropout. Dolph Lundgren directing a movie is like putting a gorilla in charge of a tea party. He tried calling the shots in cinematic masterpieces like The Defender and Missionary Man, but the results looked more like rejected Steven Seagal DVDs. Take The Mechanic, his magnum opus of mediocrity, where Dolph, bless his soul, tackles the Russian mafia with all the narrative finesse of a drunk GPS. Critics shredded it for its plot holes, jittery camera work, and acting so wooden it could double as IKEA shelving. And who told him directing himself was a good idea? That's like asking a Roomba to do surgery. The dialogue in his movies sounds like it was translated into English, then back into Swedish, then whispered by a potato. His idea of visionary is zooming in on a guy's abs mid-car chase. If Scorsese saw this, he'd fake his own death. Dolph's attempts behind the camera prove one thing. He might understand chemical engineering, but storytelling? Not even with a cheat sheet. Stick to punching robots, Dolph. The only thing you should be directing is traffic on a movie set you didn't ruin. Drago's dead-eyed comeback. When Dolph returned as Ivan Drago in Creed II, fans thought, hey, maybe we'll get depth, nuance, growth. What we got instead was an emotionless Soviet statue reanimated for 2 hours and a paycheck. Dolph's performance consisted of squinting, scowling, and occasionally muttering something in Russian, like a man who lost his place in Duolingo. He had all the screen presence of a cement mixer. Critics praised the movie, but couldn't help notice that Drago brought about as much depth as a soggy pancake. Let's be real, this wasn't about character development. This was a nostalgia ploy so transparent it practically showed the wires. The whole thing felt like a deleted Rocky IV flashback with better lighting. Dolph cashed in by doing what he does best, standing still and looking like he's been asked to solve a math problem mid-fight. And don't even start with, he had a redemption arc. No, he had screen time. There's a difference. Creed II might have been a great film, but Drago's return? That was less legendary comeback and more action figure cameo. He didn't revive a character, he resurrected a meme. And there you have it. What do you think of Dolph? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.